Welcome back to another edition of the Net Report Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite. Richie, this is going to be a basketball-centric podcast today. We're going to talk some recruiting. We're going to talk about some updates on the assistant coaching search. We have some scheduling updates. It's going to be jam-packed. But first, we kind of made some splashes all over the internet with our MBAKO reporting a couple days ago. It's one of our most popular podcasts, so if you're fairly new to us, welcome back. But yeah, so let's just kind of dive right into it. Rutgers had some real positive buzz surrounding DYLANHARPER recently, or at the EYBL especially. Tell us what you're hearing about DYLANHARPER's recruitment in the last few days.
Yeah, so after talking to a couple coaches that were at the EYBL event, geez, that was a mouthful, that everyone keeps saying, they all just keep hearing DYLANHARPER, Rutgers, DYLANHARPER, Rutgers, Rutgers. Talked to a couple other people. I spoke with someone very close to Ace Bailey who told me basically Ace is texting him nonstop. They're very, very, very close. Dylan obviously went down to the USA mini camp, played with Ace, went back home, flew down to Atlanta to play with Ace and his AAU team, Athletes of Tomorrow, in some kind of tournament event, whatever it was. Those two are extremely close from what I was told. I'm pretty confident right now that DYLANHARPER is going to be at Rutgers based on everyone saying that the EYBL, everyone else saying it, Ace being in his ear nonstop. It sounds like Rutgers is in front. Now, we've heard this before, so it's tread carefully, because we did hear it before, and then all of a sudden we heard Duke was in the lead. Then we heard Rutgers is back in the lead. So now it's back to Rutgers again, shifting in favor of them. And I really like the Scarlet Knights' chances there.
So previously you said you're pretty close to a crystal ball. Are you inching even further closer to a crystal ball for
I don't even know what's
DYLANHARPER?
holding me back at this point. It's just like, I don't want to be, I know like as cool it would be to be the first guy to do it. I just don't know if I want to be the first guy to do it, because God forbid it backfires. Everyone's like, yo, what the hell, man? Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, but I really like their chances a lot. I know he keeps saying he's going to take these visits to Kansas and I think it was Auburn in his top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if those happen anymore. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of runway left for it. If he wants to commit after Peach Jam, which is the middle of July, I think it's the July 4th weekend, you have probably, June to take those 3 visits. And, he's, finishing up his junior year in high school. He's got AAU games. He's a busy kid. So where do you squeeze those visits in? Do you just like bang them out in the same week? Like maybe that's his plan, but I agree. It seems like the timeline is getting tighter and tighter, especially with those visit dates not being set. If they were set already, that'd be one thing. He just keeps talking about going on them.
Yeah, I mean, the EYBL circuit's it's crazy too, because I'm pretty sure they play again this weekend in Phoenix, I believe it is. I'm not 100% sure where, but it's once AAU season starts, it's very, very hard to get on visits, because it's just like every weekend. Come on, let's keep going. Let's go. Play another game. All right, you want Monday through Friday off? You have to go to school. Like, you don't have an option there. I like how you just kind of went like that.
She was sitting there nice, and then she started biting, so she got the
yeet. Fair enough. But yeah, no, I really think it's going to be tough for him to get those other visits in. Now, one visit he still hasn't taken is an official visit to Rutgers. I want to say June, I would probably guess. And I think that's going to be his last official visit, and that's just the icing on the cake. Like, that's it. Like, I think once he takes that, it's like game over. They're done, and here we are. Like, he's a Scarlet Knight. I'm very confident in this, and Rutgers is going to have 2 of the top 3 players in the country. Like, I just never thought I'd say those words in a single sentence ever. And it's becoming a reality. It's no longer a dream. Everyone that used to watch Rutgers and used to see, like, even the first years in the Big Ten with Eddie Jordan, it's like, Jesus Christ, like 9 wins.
Those were very dark days.
And now it's just like, wow, they're going to land 2 of the top 3 kids. I say top 3. I think Dylan's technically 3 or Ace is 4, whatever it is. But I think Ace is personally my number 1. I've watched tape on all of them. I just think his skill set's unmatched for his height, his level, his length, his athleticism. He could score at will. And then Dylan's just a different player. Like, every time I watch a tape of him, he gets better. And I didn't think, I think like he hit his ceiling, he hit his ceiling. I'm like, nope, still going. All right, shit. And then like this weekend, like everyone's like, yeah, like going into the weekend, everyone's like, yeah, Dylan's a great scorer. He's phenomenal. He could do this, anything with the ball. And then I'm looking and I'm like, yo, didn't he just finish like number like 3 or 4 in assists per game? Average like 6 assists per game. So he's like, he's a facilitator too. Like he can do it all.
Yep.
And I know he wants the ball in his hands going forward, which is fine. Ace could play a little off ball, or they could do vice versa. Like they play together. They know how to play together now. They played with Team USA. They played with their AAU team. Like this is just getting crazier and crazier. And now we're talking MACKENZIEMGBAKO. Like,
yeah, we're gonna get to Mbako. I do want to talk about something additional to Dylan, and I know this is gonna sound a little cringy, but him and Nas Cunningham were on Instagram Live together yesterday, and we got some notes from that from a poster on the roundtable. So yeah, they got on Instagram Live yesterday. They were on it for about 10-15 minutes. They said about 80% of the comments were from Rutgers fans, which is great to see. All these kids love attention, and it's not an indictment on them. It's just, they love when teams show them love, or fans show them love. Nas apparently pinned a comment early about going to Rutgers and left it up. The comment was just "RU!" exclamation point. Dylan made a comment about wearing a lot of red and black moving forward. Unsure what that kind of means. Bosco's colors are maroon and black, but you'd think that he would say maroon black if that was the case. Dylan hinted pretty strongly that Nas Cunningham was going to be playing at Bosco next year. This is something that you've reported on, has been in the ether for a few months now, but just one more data point as to him leaving Overtime Elite. But yeah, obviously, you take all this with a grain of salt, but not bad information coming out of that Instagram Live from yesterday.
So I also want to clarify, Nas didn't pin the quote. Nas put the comment "RU!" exclamation point. It was DYLANHARPER's live. Dylan pinned the quote. So that's even, it's even bigger. Yeah. So yeah, Dylan actually pinned it on his like Instagram Live with Nas saying "RU!" I still don't think Nas ends up at Rutgers, to be honest. I do think he ends up at Bosco playing with Dylan, but I just don't know if he'll end up at Rutgers, because it does sound like he's going to end up to like almost the highest bidder at this point, which Kentucky offered back in January. I know Memphis has been pushing very hard to get him. They had him on campus recently too. Wouldn't shock me if he ended up there, but I do think that like this is just, it's all kind of like these guys are showing interest in Rutgers, no matter who they are. Top New Jersey guys are showing interest in Rutgers, and it's not just one guy. It's like every recruit. Like it's getting kind of crazy now, because now you got Nas, you got Dylan, you got Lathan Summerill's a top recruit, not just Jersey, everywhere. Like it's just this whole recruitment with Rutgers basketball is just taking it to another level, and it's insane. Like I'm having fun covering it for a change.
It is, and it's a nice reprieve from other areas of Rutgers sports right now. I'll just say who don't have a ton of good press. Who don't have really any press, because there's nothing really allowed to be reported on. You can, take the inferences there for what we're actually talking about. But let's talk about the class of 2023, because we didn't expect there to be this much drama in the class of 2023 this late, but quite a few things going on behind the scenes right now. Let's start with BAYE NDONGO. What are you hearing about BAYE NDONGO right now and his recruitment and his commitment to Rutgers?
So originally we reported that Georgetown was after him. They did inquire 100% about him. I've confirmed that with multiple people. Not an irresponsible journalist, so I would always confirm my sources. Just saying.
Oh man, if you knew what he's referencing right now.
Funny, I even have to say that, because salty. Whatever. Anyway, moving on back to the real Rutgers recruiting scoop here. NDONGO is he's getting courted by Georgia Tech. I know the biggest thing for why he didn't sign yet is because Carl Hobbs was the main recruiter. Carl Hobbs obviously is at Georgia Tech now. It sounds like it's a true 50-50 scenario. Spoken to multiple people on both sides that are down at Georgia Tech, covering Georgia Tech. I've spoken to obviously multiple people up here with Rutgers. And it sounds like a true 50-50 battle. Now, NIL is in play. Georgia Tech's very well known for it. Josh Pastner was there, and he was very well known for it. It's a big reason why Jose Alvarado didn't end up at Rutgers, and that 24th hour type signing just was going to go to Rutgers, and then all of a sudden, we're going to Georgia Tech.
Yep.
But well, that's the past. Who cares now? It would have been nice to have him now that you see him in the NBA dominating. But going back, Georgia Tech has 5 scholarships, maybe 4 because they're waiting on a decision for one guy. They did just add a former 4-star big man with a similar build to NDONGO in, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Tamara Garape. But that doesn't play in effect because, like I said, they still have 4 to 5 ships left. It does sound like Hobbs is pushing, but Knight and Thompson are doing the best they can to keep NDONGO a Scarlet Knight. It's really too tough to call right now. NIL is a factor, and it's not with NDONGO so much. It's more of like people in his corner. They're the ones that want the payday, apparently, because it sounds like NDONGO is pretty content with just going to Rutgers. So
yeah,
it does suck because that's just the way recruiting works now. But if the kid wants to go to Rutgers, like I'm going to Rutgers. Like, who am I to get in your way? But end of the day, it's NIL. This is how it works now, and we'll kind of wait and see what happens. But I expect the decision sooner rather than later in terms of NDONGO's recruitment.
So you're thinking probably in the next couple weeks we'll have some finality about where he's before the signing period's over, which is May 11th, I think.
Yeah, I would expect it probably even later this week or sometime I'd say late this week to late next week, probably around that time. I'd probably say within a 10-day span. I think that's about accurate.
Good to know. So stay tuned because it sounds like some imminent news is on the way, and I would expect it because, the signing day started, or the signing period opened almost 2 weeks ago now. It's not just Rutgers who wants this wrapped up. It's every school, so can't wait too long. The JaMychal Davis thing, you've covered that. There's nothing to be worried about there. He had a personal issue that held his signing back. I think he also wanted his whole family to be there for his signing, right? There's no worry at all.
Spoke with someone connected to him, obviously also connected to Ace and stuff like that. JaMychal Davis is ready to go. He's good to go. He's got all the paperwork just sitting there. He's waiting. It does sound like he's 100% going to be a Scarlet Knight. I don't see any issues at all. I know that the interesting thing that I did find out is that as soon as he moves in, I think it's May or June. I think it's June, actually. I might be wrong. I don't know the exact dates. But when he moves in, I know Ace Bailey plans on spending an entire month with him at Rutgers.
In New Jersey. That's awesome.
Jersey. So that's pretty cool for a kid that's not even signed. So anyone that's like really worried that like, yeah, oh my God, they have Ace Bailey, but he's not going to sign. He's not signed. He's not signed. He's not. The kid's going to fucking spend an entire month in Piscataway. Like, number one, like I hate to judge here, but if you could pick anywhere in the world to spend your summer, Piscataway.
I mean,
I get it from like a future perspective, like Rutgers.
Most of these kids also like they spend weekends down at the beach. They do shit all over the place. Like you see it for football recruiting when they like, they go in and they're like, we're not practicing today, we're going to the beach, and then they go play, whatever hacky sack on the beach or whatever the fuck they do.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna be walking down Belmar with my beach chair, and I'm just like, oh, hey, look, there's Ace Bailey.
You see him from a mile away because he's 6'9".
Yeah, that'd be funny. But no, it is cool to see him on campus for a month. Probably, it sounds like.
Yep,
that's huge. That's huge just for Rutgers landing him, and who knows? Maybe DYLANHARPER will be with them at that beach.
We'll have to stay tuned and just see how things kind of go. I imagine that Ace is going to want to hang out with Dylan as much as he can, from what it sounds like, given that he's just, from what you've reported and from what I'm hearing too, that he's just like hounding him every day. He's texting him, trying to get him to join Rutgers. So Ace, instant fan favorite. Yeah.
Ace recruiter. Haha.
Oh, done. That's a good one. That's a good one. So let's talk about some of the biggest news out of the last few days. We referenced it earlier about how, our reporting made some really big waves. What are you hearing the latest on MACKENZIEMGBAKO? I mean, we've clarified his last name is pronounced Mbako. We kind of butchered that the last pod, but we won't do that again moving forward.
Mbako. Everyone posted about it after we did. NJ Hoop Recruit was probably the biggest one that posted about it, and then Mbako commented the little eyes emoji on their Instagram post. So that was interesting to see. So he's clearly hearing the rumors as well. We know Rick Pitino did meet with him. I think it was back on the 16th, 17th, something like that. Andrew Slater is one of the best like college basketball recruiting analysts around, in my opinion. He posted about something before Mbako when he originally requested his release. Mbako requested his release and saying like, hey, he's really close to the situation. He's not going to get involved at all. He's not going to be tweeting really much about it. So anytime he tweets about it, it's like, holy shit, everyone watch, everyone look real quick. Yep. Recently he posted a tweet that, what did it say? I forget the exact. I
think it was like, I prefer people who move in silence is what it was, or something like that.
So take that for what it's worth. Some people are taking it because it's Kenny Payne, because Louisville was the early favorite. And it sounded like Louisville had him locked up right away as soon as the Duke thing fell apart. And now and Kenny Payne's really silent and this. And I'm like, I don't even know how the fuck you put that one together. Like,
yeah. And I mean, a lot of Louisville fans are putting it's like conspiracy Charlie stuff. They're high. They think they're going to land him because Nolan Smith, who used to be at Duke, is now at Louisville. He's one of the best quote unquote recruiters in the country. And I think Nolan Smith is telling people in the Louisville, I think he's telling people in the Louisville insider circle that they have him locked up. They've moved the goalposts a few times. Like, he's going to be committing this day, and now it's this day. Good news is coming here. Could be him. I know that they're also recruiting some guy, LJ Ruiz or something like that.
RJ Ruiz from UMass.
RJ Ruiz from UMass. So people are, maybe conflating the good news about him committing with Mbako. Yeah.
See, I don't really follow Louisville recruiting that much. So I reached out to one of the national guys I know, and he's like, dude, Louisville does this like every fucking month. Like, they're like, yeah, we got this guy locked up. This is it. We got him. We're done. And it's like, he signs with North Carolina. It's like, wait, what? Like, so they've done this multiple times. They were the early favorite, and you never want to be the early favorite in a recruitment like this or a transfer portal, because either you locked it up immediately or you're done. You're out. Like, see ya.
Yep.
So I don't even know what the deal is with Louisville right now. It wouldn't shock me if they're just completely gone, because I know Richard Kent, like one of our insiders, posted on Twitter the other day, and he didn't even mention Louisville.
Yeah, he mentioned Memphis, he mentioned St. John's, and he mentioned Rutgers.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the G League. Like I said before, Andrew Slater tweeted, I like guys that move in silence, and everyone's like, real G's, G League, move in silence like lasagna. Quote unquote, from one of the greatest rappers of all time, Little Wayne. So yeah, it's really hard to get a true read on things. The only thing we do know, the word coming out of Mbako's camp is that he wants to get this done relatively quickly. There's some rumors that he wants to get it done before Friday. I heard personally it could come from any day from right this minute. So basically, as soon as this pod happens, it's going to get posted till middle of May. So I don't know what the middle of May is, like 16, 17, something like that. So I would say anytime between then and now, there's a good chance that this is going to happen. There's rumors he's going to just sign with the program, not going to tell anyone, and then he'll go public like a week or two later. So it's really hard to get a read on this thing. We don't know if he's visited Rutgers. We don't know if he's visited anywhere. The only one we can confirm is that Rick Pitino did meet with him. That's all we really know. And damn well Slick Rick's pulling out all the stops to get a 5-star on campus before he even starts. So watch out.
And this is a guy who's not unfamiliar with Rutgers in general. Like we talked about, he was at the Rutgers Clemson basketball game a few years ago in November of 2021. He was there with, at the time, what was his teammate in Nas Cunningham. So they saw that. It was a big win for the program. He played at Rutgers in the Holiday Classic at the end of December this past year with that was the same tournament that Gavin Griffiths played in. So that was Gavin's first game at Rutgers. He then also played in March at Rutgers for the state championship game against St. Rose, and he had a really good game there. So this is a kid who's been on campus plenty of times. He knows what the atmosphere at the RAC is like. He knows the coaching staff really well. Like Pike has a really good relationship with the Gil St. Bernard coaches because, if you didn't know that, his son plays for Gil St. Bernard, so he knows Coach Cena really well, and that was Mbako's coach for 3 years. So there is that built-in knowledge base for Pike. I do think that he does have a pretty good idea of where Mbako's at. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to end up at Rutgers either, but I do think that you've heard from people. I think the direct quote was, Rutgers has a sneaky good shot here. Now, why that is, don't necessarily know. But for people who are national reporters to be saying that kind of stuff, there has to be some kind of extenuating situation that puts Rutgers in a better situation than most people would think. Right.
So two things there. Number one, you mentioned the whole Cena connection. Pike's extremely close with Roselle Catholic head coach Dave Boff too.
Yep.
If most people don't remember, he recruited Jameel Warney to Stony Brook, who was a stud at Stony Brook, one of the best players ever in probably Stony Brook history. He also recruited Cliff Amori out of Roselle Catholic. So it's like they have a really tight connection. And if you look online and just type in Pikel and Boff on Google, you're going to find a bunch of articles about him hyping him up back in 2016 when he first got the Rutgers job. Yeah. So they're very close as well. So not only is he close to the Gil St. Bernard's head coach, he's very close to the Roselle Catholic head coach. Now, what was the other thing? Oh, Mbako. So now the Duke thing's a little weird. I'm hearing like a couple conflicting reports. So I talked to one of our Duke insiders, and I'm trying to pull it up right now because it was a text. He told me technically, as much as the Filipowski thing people think might have been a play, apparently it might have been a smokescreen. And there's a kind of a admissions thing with Mbako and Duke, and that played a role as well. And I don't know what the scoop is, but there's something with like in-state kids getting into Rutgers easier than like an out-of-state kid, and vice versa. Like an in-state kid at Duke would be easier to get in Duke than an out-of-state kid. I don't know how that works, academics and all that, but that could play in Rutgers' favor in the end too.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff going on.
Another thing about Mbako, so everybody knows who Adam Zagori is. He's one of the most well-known basketball reporters in the tri-state area. Mm-hmm. He had an article this morning about Rick Pitino recruiting. Apparently, they're in the midst of a big recruiting week outside of the whole Mbako situation. But at the bottom of the article, he does mention Mbako. And here's what he said. St. John's remains involved for the 5-star Roselle Catholic wing, MACKENZIEMGBAKO, who decommitted from Duke and is considering the Johnnies along with Louisville, Rutgers, and Kansas. So another name there. Among others, he is expected to take several visits. Now, Zags doesn't post stuff without sourcing, so if he's expected to take several visits, I think that the timeline you mentioned between any time from now till the middle of May, probably more like the middle of May, we're going to hear this news if he's going to take several visits. For the same reasons we mentioned that with Dylan. Like if this kid is going to take several visits, it's probably not going to be all in 1 week. He's busy. He's graduating soon, so there's a lot going on in his life. So long and short of it is, if he's taking several visits, I do expect him to be on Rutgers campus in the next few weeks. That's not based on any information that I'm hearing, but if this timeline is correct, based on what Zags is saying, he's probably going to make a visit to Rutgers. So yeah,
it's going to be midweek visits. It's going to be weekend visits. It's going to be everything possible. Like so, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And friend of the show, Danny Breslauer, he put out his 5 thoughts today. I know he talked about going on a bit of a hiatus in the off season, but in one of his 5 thoughts, he said that, and if he's saying this, he's probably hearing it from people. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but he said the 2023 recruiting is in flux with Hobbs' departure and NDONGO uncertainty, but even the Mbako rumors are really good for Rutgers. It has people talking. Land him an expectation shift. So if he's hearing that, it's probably it's water cooler news for Rutgers right now for them to be referenced as in on Mbako, and they are in on him. Will they land him? Who knows? But this is a kid who he's not McDonald's All-American, top 10 kid in the country. I know we have a lot of juice going into 2024, but this is the kind of kid that he gets on the court and he has success. He becomes a lottery pick. This kind of shifts the perception of your program. So cautiously optimistic regarding Mbako, but we'll see how things play out.
I feel like I'm going to have to stalk out the rack for a couple of weeks just to sit in the parking lot. And, sir, you can't park here. You're going to get a ticket. No, it's fine. I'm here on business.
Hire a PI. Yeah. Richie Schneider, right? PI.
Honestly, if they get this kid on campus and no one knows about it, that would be moving in silence.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could pull that off. But I would say I'd argue also Rutgers did move kind of in silence until certain podcasts broke the news.
Yeah, they definitely have. So that's kind of all we have on the 2023 class. So keep staying tuned because I imagine this is, you mentioned with NDONGO, things should clear up shortly.
Mm-hmm.
The Mbako stuff can really only remain a mystery for the next month. So we'll also probably have some news on that shortly as well.
Yeah.
But let's
interesting.
Let's pivot to the assistant coaching search. You do have some pretty good new information regarding the final assistant coaching spot. So what are you hearing regarding that role?
All right. So number one, let's start. I got to find my paragraph that I wrote yesterday. So if you're on the message boards, first off, let's just say this: you would have had this info already because we post everything on there first. I know everyone comes to this podcast for breaking news, but at the same time, we go there first because those are our subscribers, those are our people, those are our guys, girls. So I mean, if you're not a member, just sign up now. And like I said before, it's an exclusive code for the podcast only. TKR30, free 30 days. Try it out, check it out. One post on the message board, and it's. I don't want to compare it to a drug, but you're right there. You're hooked. So anyway, sounds like Rutgers is down to 5 candidates currently. Now, out of those 5, I can confirm after yesterday, one of them is not former DePaul / former Virginia / former G League head coach / overtime elite current head coach, Dave Lato. He was one of Pike's mentors at the time. He's a little bit older. He's enjoying his job down at overtime elite. He's at 62 right now. Probably doesn't want to be out on the road and recruiting, what I was told. So it didn't really play a factor. So it kind of, I don't want to say it would have been like a Hobbs 2.0, but it would have been similar to that. Obviously he knows the game a lot. He knows everything about it. He's been coaching for God knows how long. Somehow got DePaul to a 500 record after 300 something games, which I'm telling you, it's such a hard place to win at. So that's impressive in its own right. But we're going to remove him from our hot board. We heard that he is probably not. I shouldn't say probably. He is not interested in the job. Did they have a conversation? I'm sure they probably did. I'm sure he was Pike's mentor. I'm sure they had a conversation saying hey, what do you think? Any chance? And he was like, no. But I got this guy. I got that guy. So yeah, that one's it's done. We're done there. Next, Brett McConnell. As much as everyone wants you, I don't think Rutgers is the place. Sounds like they're not gonna go after Brett McConnell. Sounds like McConnell's kind of just gonna stay at Princeton for another year. He already turned down multiple jobs. He turned down the Army job, which I don't blame him. That one's a tough one too. And then he turned down New Hampshire, which New Hampshire, it is what it is. Based on what I was told, is they wanted him to just take the job sight unseen. And it's anytime someone says that, it basically means your facilities were what Rutgers football was before the new facility. So it's what Chris Ash, remember that? I don't know if you remember Chris Ash talking about it, and he's I got there and I took the job. I walked in and it's we had a fucking shipping container just filled with tickets and pads and this and that, and it was what the fuck? So anyone that says take the job sight unseen, don't do it. Just don't.
Yep.
So yeah, that one was out. I think another year at Princeton, they're gonna have another good season because they're Princeton. They're recruiting really well. He's basically recruited 99% of their team. He has an eye for talent. I think he'll be a head coach in no time. So give it another year, he'll get a really solid head coaching job in the mid majors, and eventually maybe move up to the high majors too. Maybe be Pike's predecessor down the line. Who knows? But I'm going to give that title to Brandon Knight for now. But anyway, the only name that we heard kind of trending up a little bit is Stetson, assistant coach, Rutgers alum John Mitchell. I'm not going to say he's in that top 5 or not in that top 5 because we don't know specifically. But his name has been mentioned a lot. He's been there's just a lot of sources have been saying that he's talked to Rutgers about it already. I know for a fact Pike's definitely intrigued by him. I know he wants the job as well. Stetson to Rutgers, it's a huge jump. Who wouldn't want to make that leap? Yeah. But he's a Rutgers alum, so that plays a huge factor. And he's one of the better players in recent history too, during those down years. Want to see he's most well known for that 4-point play against Villanova to win the game. I don't know how you foul on that, but it's stupid Villanova.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he helped lead Stetson to a 17-14 record this past year, most wins in Stetson history over the past 35 years. First winning season in 23 years. Just landed former Minnesota player Trayton Thompson via the portal. He's good. He's got an eye for talent. I really like John Mitchell a lot. I think he'd be great, especially because he's a big man and could help develop the big men. Something Rutgers hasn't really had since Jay Young left, but even if he doesn't get this assistant coaching job, I think you got to find a role for John Mitchell. I think that the potential ceiling there for Mitchell could be a high assistant coach, could be a great recruiter, and even if you have him in an off the court role, he could still coach a little bit and help with the bigs. The bigs need a big man coach at the end of the day. You have 3 guards on your coaching staff. A big man would be very beneficial. So that's all we got right now. I still think my favorite, Donyell Marshall, is my favorite name by far on our list. Could there be a name out there that we don't know? I'm sure there is, but I think Donyell Marshall is the go-to so far.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it does seem like there is a little bit more clarity regarding the assistant coaching search. But again, Pike is playing this close to the vest. Who he's interviewed, we don't really have full clarity on that, but it does seem like there are a few people who will not be getting the job.
Yeah, he's very, very quiet about this one, which rightfully so. I get it.
So we've covered quite a bit in terms of basketball. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about any other sports?
I'd say, I shouldn't say we broke the news, but I guess we broke the news, whatever you want to call it. The Adidas contract ends June 30th. So interestingly enough, last time this contract ended in June was when Nike's contract was up in June. We knew back in February that the Adidas deal was already done. Like, I think it was mid-February. Yep. It was done. Then June 30th hit. Boom, Adidas. Now it's not so done. Heard a couple of things in that regard. It sounds like, number one, if you've seen our post on Instagram and Twitter and all that, whoever's voting for Under Armour, stop. Like, number one, it's not happening. Maryland won't let it happen. Number two, no, they're like gears. Just like, don't get me wrong, I like some of their stuff in terms of like, like polos and apparel and all that stuff, but in terms of sneakers and shit, hell no.
Yeah.
Everyone complains about the Steph Curry shoes, saying like they're the slipperiest things on the court ever. So like that's be in full agreement here. They might have Bryce Harper, they might have Steph Curry. I believe they have one of the top. They have Joel. They have Jordan Spieth like as a golfer. Stop. Like, no, we're done here. Like end. No, I think Nike or Adidas is clearly the way to go. There's a rumor Adidas might want to re-up for 1 year. Now, if they give Rutgers a significant bump in money, I think they re-up. If they don't, I think Rutgers would go to Nike, and that's it. That's set in stone. We know football had Nike under Schiano all those years, so I'm sure it was definitely an adjustment for him when he came back, and he had to go straight to Adidas after being Nike as head coach of Rutgers, Nike at Ohio State, and then come back and just be like, Adidas, like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
yeah. And it is we've alluded to this. It is it's a recruiting disadvantage not being a Nike school.
Yeah.
Because almost all of the top kids are part of a Nike AAU team. They're part of a Nike high school team. They're part of the EYBL, which is Nike. The gear, we know for a fact that Rutgers has lost out on basketball recruits because they were not a Nike school. I won't say who, but there were recruits who were basically going to Rutgers if they were a Nike school. Put that out there. Also, we've heard from former players that Nike equipment is just a higher quality, and a lot of people think this. And right or wrong, this is the perception of Nike gear versus all other gear. So, with all that being said, like, I know we talked about Schiano being a Nike guy. I don't know what Pike would prefer, but it sounds like push comes to shove, if there's a similar offer, they're going to go with Nike.
Yeah, I totally agree. As long as Nike doesn't screw them and give them a shitty offer, I think Nike's the way to go. Someone asked before on the boards, will Bailey, Warren, and Somerville decommit if we switch to Nike? What about Mbako if we go to Nike? And I'm like, all right, let's just do the math real quick. Bailey plays for a Nike high school, Nike AAU program. Warren, same exact thing. Mbako, same exact thing. Harper, same exact thing. Somerville, Nike High School, Jordan AAU, which is a brand under Nike.
Yep.
They all play for Nike. All these guys, even Rutgers athletes, like former Rutgers athletes, look at just take a quick look at Cliff Amory's highlight workout tapes that he's doing right now. Notice something different? He wears Nike shoes in every single one when he's working out and playing basketball. Not a coincidence. So
yeah, and if you look at like posts from our current and former players when they're just like not on the court, when they're out and about, most of them have Nikes on. It seems like the majority of players prefer Nike.
Yeah. So. The only in terms of recruiting, the only one that would be weird, which I did the math here, it was tough. NDONGO played for Colorado Prep when they were a Nike school. Halfway through his season, they switched to Puma. Then he transferred to Putnam, who's New Balance. Then he played for Utah Select out there in an AAU program, which was Adidas. But then he played for City Rocks in New York, and that's Nike. And it's like, this man literally tried every fucking shoe brand possible. And it was just like, I don't know. Like,
yep.
But yeah, I don't understand. Like, I like New Balance shoes, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't understand the appeal for like a basketball sneaker, like just a casual wear, like some of those new ones that like Kawhi's putting out there. Pretty nice.
Yeah, you can't go with New Balance if you're
hell no.
A big program, but yeah, they're not the worst. They used to be the worst. They're not the worst.
Boston College. Jesus.
Oh God.
Yeah. Did
it. That's why they're a terrible athletic program, and they're never going to win anything. I
think they actually double dipped, right? Didn't they double dip? Because New Balance doesn't do football, so they got football with like Under Armour or something.
I truly have no idea. I really don't.
I think that's what it is. I think Boston College double dipped, and they did New Balance for all their athletics except football. I forget what the exact deal was, but I don't expect Rutgers to do some crazy fucking deal like that, because that ain't it.
No, they definitely won't. I think it'll be Nike if I had to guess. But don't really have a timeline for that. The contract obviously is up the 30th of June. I'd imagine some kind of news will start to leak if they're going to switch before that.
Yeah,
but
it's got to come out soon.
Yep. One other thing I thought of, if you don't have anything else for the shoe stuff.
You're good with the shoe stuff. I know we got a couple questions on Twitter after this when you're done.
Yeah, so we had some fairly significant Rutgers wrestling news last night. So
we did.
You can kind of extrapolate on this, but Rutgers was in the final 3 for Chris Cannon of Northwestern I think he wrestles at 133.
Correct.
Penn State was one of the finalists. They landed a 133 out of Minnesota last night, Aaron Nagao. So that would take them out of the Chris Cannon runnings. Does that make Rutgers in the driver's seat, or are you hearing that there might be some spiced up competition there?
So as we know, Rutgers and Michigan have been going at it for transfer portal recruits quite a bit now. Rutgers ended up beating them out for the Harvard transfer, who I'm not even going to try to remember what his name is pronounced like. It's like Yari. We'll go with Yari. That works.
Yep.
So they beat them out for him as a heavyweight, and now it sounds like it's going to come down to Rutgers and Michigan for Chris Cannon. Chris Cannon's an Oceanport, New Jersey native. He's worked with Sebastian Rivera's dad in the past. It's tough. So it sounds like it's going to come down to weight class, because Rutgers wants him as a 141, and if he's open to that, it sounds like it's Rutgers all the way. If he doesn't want to go 141 and wants to stay 133, it's probably going to be Michigan. It's a really tough call. Everyone I talk to, like that, I'm pretty close with someone that's close to the family, so it's tough. Like they say, they're supposed to have a decision this week, and I don't even know if that's going to happen anymore, because the Penn State thing kind of threw them for a loop, because like Penn State was showing interest but keeping them on the back burner. So now it's they land Aaron Nagao or whatever, and now it's like, all right, shit. Now we have to reassess everything and kind of figure out where we're going to go with this. So it does sound like it's Rutgers and Michigan. It would be a huge get for Rutgers if they can get them at 141. Don't even ask me how the rest of the lineup plays out. I know Wex is working on an article now on how he sees the lineup playing out in the future for 2023, 2024. But it's because Joey Oliveri's at 141, so I don't really know what you do. Like, do you bump him down? Can't bump him up really? So I really don't know, because he was supposed to redshirt too twice. So now it's like,
yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely interesting. But Rutgers is in the finals for another top portal guy, and he's a 2-time All-American at Northwestern. I think last year he struggled and lost in the blood round a little bit, but yeah, it's a good name to keep an eye
on. One more name to keep an eye on wrestling-wise, Shane Griffith entered the portal.
That guy.
Yeah, he's a 2-time national champion. He's went to high school at Bergen Catholic. He's leaving Stanford for one more year. I think he's got a grad transfer year left. Are you hearing anything regarding him and Rutgers? I know he's one of their finalists.
No, it's all quiet. I know he wants to take some visits. I expect him to visit Rutgers 100%. I just don't know when that's supposed to happen. I'll check in today or tomorrow with Lex, who's got all the sources. So we'll go via that, and then I'm sure we'll post on the boards as soon as we find out more. I think Lex actually has a recruiting notebook that he's writing up as we speak. So we'll go wait for that, and then we should probably have all the info in there.
Awesome. A news item we actually forgot earlier is the Rutgers Big Ten basketball schedule got released yesterday. Yes. So just run through that really quick. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do, so sorry for kind of mansplaining this, but the Rutgers, the Big Ten basketball schedule, you get a grouping of teams that you play home and away, and you get 6 teams that you only play once. So you only get either a home game or an away game. So the 6 teams, Rutgers is only playing once, and I'll start with home only. The first 3 will be home only. The second 3 will be away only. So they get Indiana once at home, they get Northwestern once at home, and they get Penn State once at home. The away only teams are Iowa, Michigan State, and Minnesota. And the teams they're playing home and away with are Maryland, Illinois, Michigan, Purdue, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. So my quick reaction to this is a much harder schedule next year than this year, because you want to play those teams that are probably going to be the bottom 3 or 4 teams twice. And the only team that really fits that bill is Nebraska, but Nebraska is actually going to be pretty good next year, in my opinion. So the teams that you would hope to play twice would be Minnesota, Northwestern, and Penn State. And they're only playing those 3 teams once. What's your shooting from the hip reaction to the Big Ten schedule for basketball next year?
I know we mentioned it in our little group chat, but it's just stupid that they don't play Penn State and Maryland like home and home every year. Like it's just it's local, make it a thing. It's kind of like a rivalry, not rivalry type thing. Michigan State, I always thought was kind of developing into a rival too on all fronts. I know Rutgers obviously has to beat them more, but it's getting closer. And I would put them home and away too. I would try to keep those like rivalry, not rivalry games like at home and away, no matter what. But home games, getting Indiana at home and not in Assembly Hall is always nice. Northwestern, cool. Penn State, cool. Playing at Iowa sucks. Hawkeye Carver Arena is just not fun. Michigan State's East Lansing's not fun. Minnesota, I just think they suck. So it's like whatever.
But the
kept their head coach.
The ghosts of the barn from last year where he lost there, though.
That's true. I forgot about that. You're right. Other than that, like it's definitely tougher. Like playing at Purdue is always tough. Playing at Illinois is always tough. Wisconsin home and away is tough. Nebraska, I never know what to think of them. Ohio State has like kept Holtman too, but they have a whole new roster too. It seems like it's hard to judge because like these teams like are all pretty portal heavy teams, and like you don't really know what they're going to be yet. It's really too tough to call. So as much as I make it like off the top of my head, it looks harder. I don't know how hard it really is. How much harder it really is. Jeez.
Yeah, I agree that it's a bit of like a snow globe that's still, somebody shook the shit out of it and now all the pieces are settling. You don't really know who's going to be a good team, who's going to be a bad team until all the portal people have found their final destination. And even then, you could have a collection of really good players, but they might not fit well together. So like, for example, like what Michigan's doing right now, they don't know if they're getting Hunter Dickinson back. They got Caleb Love. Mm-hmm. Like they could be a team that finishes top 4 in the Big Ten, and they could be a team that finishes bottom 4. Neither of those would surprise me because Juwan Howard, for one's not a good coach. And second, like how are these guys going to fit in together? Like, are they going to be like, a lot of these guys are mercenaries. They're taking big NIL deals to go to big programs. Do they give a shit? Like if you look at like football examples, like Miami last year, Texas A&M last year, they were 2 of the most heavy NIL focused teams in terms of team building. And I'm talking about for football, not for basketball. And that didn't work out. But then the flip side, you look at Miami basketball, they went to the Final Four on like an NIL driven, mercenary driven team. So it's all about how do the pieces fit together? How do the personalities fit together? How does the coaching kind of help these guys along? So you really don't know. But one other scheduled thing, the Wake Forest game got finalized today. That's going to be at Wake Forest on Wednesday, December 6th. So the schedule is kind of becoming a clearer picture. We don't have any finalized date for the Big Ten schedule, though. So I imagine that'll come out closer to media day.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be soon. We also confirmed Stonehill home game, Long Island home game, Seton Hall away game, and the Gavitt games. So that's 4 on top of the Wake Forest game that are confirmed out of conference right now. Sounds like Gavitt games, per our insider Richard Kent, is leaning towards Villanova, which would be a nice.
That'd be awesome.
It'd be a great game. I don't even care where they play it at, to be honest. Like either way, I would love to go watch. So, I think that's really it scheduling wise, right?
That's all I can think of. Yeah.
All right, and then anything else before we go to these quick questions? Not a lot, but
no, I don't have anything else.
Any timeline for Nike Adidas deal? We talked about notes on Mbako. We talked about which football players do you see entering the portal. I think it's pretty clear that there's going to be at least a couple linemen, just because there's like 20 something of them, and not everyone's going to be on that too deep. I think some of the older guys are going to be pissed when they see the too deep, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yep.
And for some reason, Power 5 backup linemen in the portal are just getting the biggest bags possible. So I'd be leaving too.
Yeah.
What else? NDONGO we talked about. Dave White wanted an Mbako update and recruiting targets for 2023. There's no other recruiting targets for 2023. It's NDONGO, Jermichael Davis, obviously, who's going to sign, and Mbako, and that's really it. Hey Carter, what's up? Shout out to Carter.
What's up, Carter?
Yeah, had to give him a shout out there. Apparently waves to us every podcast, so we gotta kind of remember that every podcast. But other than that, no, I think that's really it. All the questions we answered. Looking on our message board too, that's basically all the same questions. Yeah, no, I think we're done.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for all who have rated and reviewed us recently. The reviews keep pouring in. We love to see that. It really does help grow the show. So we appreciate each and every one of you who do that, and every one of you who've subscribed, who listen on a regular basis. We can't thank you enough. The show's grown in leaps and bounds in the last few months because of people like you, people telling a friend, people sharing on social media. So keep it up. We're going to keep bringing you this content. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening in the next coming days and weeks. We have the spring game on Saturday. We're going to have a full breakdown of that on Monday with Chris Nowlaski, who's maybe can say a little bit more about what he's seen at spring practice, because he's been there for basically every practice after the game has been played. And we'll continue to have all these basketball updates because there's clearly a lot still happening. They're still active in the transfer portal. I do expect them to make an addition to the program. Not necessarily sure if that's going to be a guy like Mbako or that's going to be a transfer guy, but I don't think they're done shaping this roster for next year yet.
Do you have to mention, I feel like I said this last podcast, but I feel like a lot of people didn't follow through. I want to be the number 1 rated podcast for Rutgers. Like, I don't want to be number 2. I don't want to be number 3. I know we're number 2 right now. And we have 63 reviews on Apple. The number 1 podcast, I shouldn't say number 1, previous number 1, has 70 something. I need you, whoever's listening to this, to go on Apple Pods. I know you're listening to it right now because like 75% of our listeners are Apple Pods. Go on Apple Pods, rate and review this bitch. Give it a 5-star review. Sorry I cursed in front of Carter, but it has to get out there. We need these reviews. I want to be number 1 because, as a wise man once said, if you're not first, you're last.
Truer words have never been spoken. I want to end on that. Thanks again for listening. This has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.